السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Ibn Hajar rahmallah was explaining the first three categories of what he would regard as the most authentic of all narrations. So in the first category he mentions there are those narrations which Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahumullah have both narrated, they are muttafaq alayh. For the second category he mentions that there are those narrations which only Imam Bukhari rahimahullah is narrated, and the third category are those narrations which only Imam Muslim rahimahullah is narrated. In this way we will gauge the most authentic of all narrations. So he says that the reason why we are giving preference to these narrations لاتفاق العلماء بعدهما على تلقي كتابيهما بالقبول. He's saying that because scholars after Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahumullah, they have accepted the kitabs of Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, they have made talaqqi bil qabul. So here we mentioned that many scholars did not actually accept this here. Firstly, we explained in the previous lesson that this was only concocted by Ibn Salah rahimahullah, it was made up by him, and scholars didn't accept it because it goes against reality. So here when he's saying talaqqi kitabayhima bil qabul, how strong is this? So in order to respond to this here, we say that if you remember in lesson 26, we have explained that according to Hanafis, talaqqi is only considered in khairul qurun. That is up until the end of the era, up until the end of the year 220 Hijri. Only up until that point, talaqqi bil qabul is accepted. And if there is a hadith which has talaqqi bil qabul, then according to Hanafis, it's going to be considered as a mashhur narration. It won't be considered as a khabrul wahid. So that's the first point which we have to keep into consideration. Then Ibn Hajar is saying that there's talaqqi bil qabul. So the question is that what is the meaning of talaqqi bil qabul? When he's saying this talaqqi bil qabul, so scholars accepted the kitabs. What did they accept from the kitabs? Did scholars accept that the narrations of Bukhari and Muslim are Ṣahīh, or did they accept that it is Aṣahhu Ṣahīh? What exactly did they accept? Because if they accepted that it is Ṣahīh, then there are narrations in other kitabs as well, which scholars have accepted as Ṣahīh. So therefore, that cannot be a valid reason. As a third response, we say that let's look at it from a practical point of view. That Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahumullah, so this year Shaykh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda rahimahullah, he gives this answer. That they both narrated from the exact same source. So the example he gives is, he say like, look, for example, both of them, Imam Bukhari rahimahullah and Imam Muslim, they both narrate from the Sahifa of Hammam bin Munabbih. So this entire Sahifa, this notebook of Hammam bin Munabbih, it goes with the sanad where Abdul Razak narrated from Ma'mar, who narrated from Hammam, who narrated from Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu. So in this Sahifa, there are a total of 142 narrations. Now from these 142 narrations, Imam Bukhari rahmallah has narrated 39 narrations. So take 142 and minus 39, there are 103 narrations which Imam Bukhari has not narrated. He only narrated 39 from this particular Sahifa. Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he's narrated much more. He narrated 81, more than double of what Imam Bukhari rahimahullah has narrated. But there are still close to 1/3 of the Sahifa which he has not narrated. So they narrated from the Sahifa which has the same sanad. The entire Sahifa, every hadith in the Sahifa is narrated from Abdul Razak, from Ma'mar, from Hammam, from Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu. Imam Bukhari narrated 39. And then from these, there are 23 which are muttafaq alayh. That means Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim both narrated. So that means Imam Bukhari rahmallah narrated 16 narrations from the Sahifa which Imam Muslim rahmallah did not narrate. And on the other hand, Imam Muslim rahmallah has narrated 58 narrations which Imam Bukhari did not narrate. And then there are 42 narrations from the Sahifa which neither Imam Bukhari or Imam Muslim rahimahullah has narrated. So now, all of this here, take it and let's apply this principle on it. If we give preference to muttafaq alayh narrations, then are we saying that those 32 narrations which Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahullah has both narrated from the Sahifa, they those 23 narrations, those 23 narrations which Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahullah have both narrated from the Sahifa, are they now automatically more authentic than those 41 narrations which Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahullah is not narrated? Or even going to the fourth category, are those 23 narrations more authentic than the 16 narrations which Imam Bukhari rahimahullah alone has narrated? Then those 16 narrations which Imam Bukhari rahimahullah alone has narrated, can they be more authentic than those 58 narrations which Imam Muslim rahimahullah alone narrates? So obviously this here cannot be possible, because it's all narrated with the exact same sahifa, it's all narrated with the exact same sanad. So whether Imam Bukhari rahmallah narrates it or another authentic narrator like Ibn Majah rahmallah, he was an authentic and a reliable person. If he has to now take the sahifa, it's not going to make any difference. So therefore we say that it doesn't make sense, even when you're trying to practically prove it, it doesn't make sense at all to say that those narrations which Imam Bukhari rahmallah and Imam Muslim rahimahullah have both narrated, they will be more authentic. Then as a fourth response we say, okay, now let us look at other kitabs. Let us look at Muwatta Imam Malik, Musnad Ahmad, then the four Sunan, Sunan Tirmidhi, Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan Nasai and Sunan Ibn Majah, and then other kitabs of authors where they made iltizam of Ṣahīh. For example, Ṣahīh Ibn Khuzaymah and Ṣahīh Ibn Hibban. All of these kitabs have reached us through tawatur. And if you remember, even according to Ibn Hajar rahmallah, they have reached us through tawatur. If you got the print of Sheikh Nuruddin Itr, if you turn to page 45, the last line there, the second last line, you remember he said, وَمِنْ أَحْسَنِ مَا يُقَرَّرُ بِهِ كَوْنُ الْمُتَوَاتِرِ مَوْجُودًا وُجُودَ كَثْرَةٍ فِي الْأَحَادِيثِ أن الكتب المشهورة المتداولة بأيدي أهل العلم شرقا وغربا المقطوع. So you can see he's saying that it's المقطوع عندهم بصحة نسبتها إلى مصنفيها. After that he uses that to prove tawatur. So he's acknowledging that all of these kitabs have reached us through tawatur. So now if the kitab, leave alone talaqqi bil qabul, he's saying talaqqi bil qabul is on the Ṣahīh. We're saying that from Imam Malik, you remember when we said tawatur, I told you to even memorize the term, that it's like al-masmu', it is as if we are hearing it directly. So when we're saying that Muwatta Imam Malik has reached us through tawatur, it is as if we are directly hearing the kitab from Imam Malik rahimahullah. So we don't have to look at any sanad between us and Imam Malik. It's us, and now it is as if we're hearing it directly from Imam Malik. Now, if Imam Malik rahimahullah is narrated from Nafi', who has narrated from Ibn Umar, then this here is asahul asanid. So since the kitab reached us through tawatur, and here we have this kitab is narrating asahul asanid, can we say now that based on this principle that narrations of muttafaq alayh get preference, that a hadith which is narrated by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim would get preference over this kitab which Imam Malik rahmallah is narrating through asahul asanid? So obviously that will not be correct. And even worse, there are some mutakallam fi narrators in Sahih al-Bukhari, and we'll discuss but more of them later or in the next lesson, depending how much we manage to cover today. So if you have mutakallam fi narrator, a mutakallam fi narrator from Sahih al-Bukhari, so take for example, you have Abdullah bin Muthanna. So Abdullah bin Muthanna, Imam Nasai rahmallah said with regards to him, laysa bil qawi. Likewise, al-Masajid rahmallah said fihi du'uf. And others have merely said with regards to him that Salih, that he is a Hasan, his narrations will be considered as Hasan. Now if you have Imam Bukhari narrating from him, and you are saying that the second category of both authentic narrations are those which only Imam Bukhari rahmallah is narrated. So will this narration of Abdullah bin Muthanna, for example, get preference over Sahul Asanid which Imam Malik rahmallah or Imam Ahmad rahmallah or any other scholar has narrated? So obviously that will not be correct. So then you will see later that Ibn Hajar rahmallah is going to mention that, if you turn to page 65, it says, أما لو رجح قسم على ما هو فوقه بأمور أخرى تقتضي الترجيح فإنه يقدم على ما فوقه إذ قد يعرض للمفوق ما يجعله فائقا. Even when giving the dars, and in fact when explaining this entire text, this exact text which we are doing in the dars, he said قد يعرض عارض يجعل المفوق فائقا, like it comes in القول المبتكر on page 53 على مقاسم من كتبه mentions. So Ibn Hajar is agreeing that sometimes ahadith which are not narrated in Bukhari and Muslim will get preference. We are saying that there are so many examples which are given, that if you are going to say all of these examples which are given are excluded, then also you are going to say that all those which contradict your madhab are excluded, because if you read Fath al-Bari, you will find so many times when, and so it's natural, because Ibn Hajar at the end of the day, he was a Shafi'i. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, for example, did not narrate a hadith of Jahr, saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim loud before Surah Fatiha. These are the common examples. And then when you go through the other abwab of fiqh, you see how many more times Imam Bukhari contradicted the Shafi'i madhab, yet Ibn Hajar follows the proofs of his madhab. So he gives preference to those narrations over Sahih al-Bukhari. So we are saying that if you are making a principle just to be broken at every other hadith, then what's the point of making the principle? Because the person makes a principle so that it can be followed. At least 51% of the time, if it's followed, then you can say it's a valid principle. But if you're making a principle and every time it's just getting broken and you are making exclusions, then there is no point in making that a principle. So in his nukat, Ibn Hajar rahmallah then became a bit more understanding, and he said that هذه الأقسام التي ذكر المصنف للصحيح ماشية على قواعد الأئمة ومحقق النقاد إلا أنها قد لا تترد، لأن الحديث الذي ينفرد به مسلم مثلا إذا فرض مجيئه من طرق كثيرة حيث تبلغ التواتر والشهرة القوية ويوافق على تخريج مشترط الصحة مثلا، لا يقال فيه إن من فرد البخاري بتخريجه إذا كان فردا ليس له إلا مخرج واحد أقوى من ذلك فليحمل إطلاق ما تقدم من تقسيمه على الأغلب الأكثر. So you can see there he became a bit more understanding. And this very same point which is mentioned is saying here that if you have all the other scholars who are narrating a hadith, Imam Muslim rahmallah, and they are narrating a hadith which comes with many more turuq than a hadith which Imam Bukhari rahmallah alone has narrated. So Imam Bukhari narrated a gharib hadith. It only has one particular tariq. And Imam Muslim and all of the others who made the condition of Ṣahīh, they narrated it with multiple turuq, then that get preference. So he's saying that yes, you will give preference to those. So this exact same principle, Ibn al-Humam rahmallah, he used it, this exact same example when trying to prove that this entire taqsim is baseless. He said وَقَدْ أَخْرَجَ مُسْلِمْ عَنْ كَثِيرٍ فِي كِتَابِهِ مِمَّا لَمْ يَسْلُمْ مِنْ غَوَائِلِ الْجَرْحِ وَكَذَا فِي الْبُخَارِ جَمَاعَةٌ تكلم فيهم فدار الأمر في الرواة على اجتهاد العلماء. So you can see he gives that same explanation. So the ultimate thing what we are trying to say is that this taqsim, looking just from the first three categories, we can see it has no merit at all. And although you want to say that the ahadith of muttafaq alayh are more, but when you're looking at every hadith individually, you are going to find so many exclusions. Therefore, it's no use trying to make up these categories. Moving on with the ibara, Ibn Hajar rahmallah is now mentioning that, okay, in the first category we mentioned that those narrations which Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahullah have narrated, they are the most authentic. But then in the second category we are only giving preference to those narrations which Imam Bukhari rahimahullah is narrated, and in the third category we are only giving preference to those narrations which Imam Muslim rahimahullah is narrated. But the reasoning which we are giving is لاتفاق العلماء بعدهما على تلقي كتابيهما بالقبول. So just like how there was تلقي for the kitab of Imam Bukhari, there is also تلقي for the kitab of Imam Muslim. So why do we not put the second and the third category both in one category? We say that the second category is those narrations which Imam Bukhari has narrated alone and what Imam Muslim rahmallah is narrated alone. Just like what Ibn al-Jawzi and al-Mamayanishi rahmallah have done. So he's answering and he's saying that we are giving preference to the narrations of Sahih al-Bukhari. Why? This is the reason he's saying وَقَدْ صَرَّحَ الْجُمْهُورِ بِتَقْدِيمِ صَحِيحِ الْبُخَارِي فِي الصِّحَّةِ وَلَمْ يُوجَدْ عَنْ أَحَدٍ التَّصْرِيحُ بِنَقِيضِهِ. He's saying that Jumhur, the vast majority of scholars, they have given preference to Sahih al-Bukhārī in terms of authenticity. And then he says, وَلَمْ يُوجَدْ عَنْ أَحَدٍ التَّصْرِيحُ بِنَقِيضِهِ. That we haven't found anyone who has clearly and emphatically mentioned the opposite, that Sahih Muslim gets preference over Sahih al-Bukhārī. Now here, if you have to look at this ibara, then by saying وَلَمْ يُوجَدْ عَنْ أَحَدٍ التَّصْرِيحُ بِنَقِيضِهِ, if you go 3 lines on top, he said وَاخْتِلَافِ بَعْضِهِمْ فِي أَيِّهِمَا أَرْجَحُ. So it seems like there's a contradiction, because first Babi said that there is ikhtilaf. And how can there be ikhtilaf? Ikhtilaf means that there are others who held an alternate view. That's the meaning of ikhtilaf. If no one holds an alternate view, then can you say there's ikhtilaf? No, there's no ikhtilaf. Ikhtilaf means someone had to hold the alternate view. So by saying وَاخْتِلَافِ بَعْضِهِمْ فِي أَيِّمَا أَرْجَحُ, he agreed that there are others who have given preference to Sahih Muslim over Sahih al-Bukhārī. And here he's saying وَلَمْ يُوجَدْ عَنْ أَحَدٍ التَّصْرِيحُ بِنَقِيضِهِ. So this here seems like a contradiction. But Mullah al-Qari rahmallah responded to it saying that لَعَلَّ مَا ذَكَرَوْا مِنْ اخْتِلَافِهِمْ مَبْنِيٌّ عَلَى إِطْلَاقَاتِهِمْ وَمَا يُفَهَّمُ مِنْ كَلَامِهِمْ وَلَا يَكُونُ مِنْهُمْ تَصْرِيحٌ بِذَلِكَ. That no one clearly and emphatically mentioned. Like here in this next paragraph now, he's mentioning a statement of someone from whose words you can understand that he's giving preference to Sahih Muslim, but he's then interpreting those words. So there's a difference between tasrih, where you clearly mention, and where your sentence has the possibility, it has a dual meaning. It has the possibility of being interpreted in this way, and it has the possibility of conveying an alternate meaning. So here he answers this here, that if someone has to bring the statement of Abu Ali an-Nisaburi, so he says that وَأَمَّا مَا نُقِلَ عَنْ أَبِي عَلِيٍّ النِّسَابُورِي أنه قال ما تحت أديم السماء أصح من كتاب مسلم فلم يصرح بكونه أصح من صحيح البخاري. He's saying that look at the statement here, which is transmitted from Abu Ali an-Nisaburi, that he said that ما تحت أديم السماء أصح من كتاب مسلم. These are his words. Now, if you have to look at this word, ما تحت أديم السماء أصح من كتاب مسلم. So, before even going through the sentence, you need to understand who Abu Ali an-Nisaburi was. So, he was an expert in hadith, and also keep in mind his date of birth and date of demise. He was born in the year 277, so just after Imam Muslim rahmallah, and he passed away in the year 349 Hijri. So he was like I say, he was a master in the field of hadith, and he was also the teacher of many scholars. For example, he was the teacher of Ibn Manda, he was the teacher of Imam Hakim rahmallah. Imam Hakim rahmallah said with regards to him that لست أقول تعصبا لأنه أستاذي ولكن لم أرى مثله قط. He's saying that I'm not saying this here because I'm being biased, just because he's my teacher I'm saying it, but I can tell you for sure لم أرى مثله قط. I haven't seen anyone like him. And he also mentions with regards to him that هو واحد عصره في الحفظ والإتقان والورع والمذاكرة والتصنيف. And his other student, Abdurrahman bin Manda, he says that he heard from his father, that his father said that ما رأيت في اختلاف الحديث والإتقان أحفظ من أبي علي النزابوري. You can see that he was a really a great scholar in the field of hadith. And obviously, if you're a great scholar, in fact, even those who were nuqad and they were mutashaddid, they too acknowledge his greatness in this field. For example, Ibn al-Jawzi rahmallah. So you know Ibn al-Jawzi rahmallah, in the last lesson I told you that how many Sahih narrations and Hasan narrations he has regarded as mawdu' because he was so stern, he was such a mutashaddid. Yet he had to acknowledge that definitely Abu Ali, he said with regards to him, وَكَانَ وَاحِدْ دَهْرِهِ فِي الْحِفْظِ وَالْإِتْقَانِ. Likewise, al-Nadhar Qutni rahmallah. So Abu Abdurrahman al-Sulami, he says that al-Nadhar Qutni, you know al-Nadhar Qutni we're going to do later on, that he weakened so many narrations of Sahih al-Bukhārī and Sahih Muslim because that he was such a mutashaddid. Yet when he was asked with regards to Abu Ali an-Nisaburi, he said Imam Muhazzab. So the point which you're trying to show that it's not, these are not just the words of any person, it's the words of someone who was a master in the field, and therefore his words hold so much merit. And that is the whole reason why Ibn Hajar rahmallah is actually even bringing it here. He's following Ibn Salah rahmallah, because Ibn Salah rahmallah, he mentioned, he quoted Abu Ali an-Nisaburi in his Ma'rifah Ulum al-Ḥadīth, Muqaddama Ibn Salah. He said there, وَأَمَا مَا رُوِينَاهُ عَنْ أَبِي عَلِيٍّ الْحَافِظِ النَّسَابُورِ أُسْتَاذ الْحَاكِمِ أبي عبد الله الحافظ من أنه قال ما تحت أديم السماء كتاب أصح من كتاب مسلم ابن الحجاج. This here is on the end of page 18 and the beginning of page 19 of the print of Sheikh Nuruddin Itr. So Ibn Hajar is following Ibn Salah rahmallah. So now the statement here, although Ibn Hajar is saying that he's not clearly mentioning, but definitely if you have to just look at it on the first glance, you will think that it contradicts the sentence which he just mentioned, وَلَمْ يُوجَدْ عَنْ أَحَدٍ التَّصْرِيحُ بِنَقِيضِهِ. So Ibn Hajar rahmallah needed to explain it, that he's saying that no one has clearly mentioned the opposite, that Sahih Muslim is greater than or more authentic than Sahīh al-Bukhārī, but then you have the statement of Abu Ali an-Nisaburi. So basically there are two ways of looking at the statement. al-Bukhārī rahmallah explains that الحق أن هذه الصيغة تارة تستعمل على مقتضى أصل اللغة فتنفي الزيادة فقط، وتارة على مقتضى ما شاع من العرف فتنفي المساواة. There are two ways you can look at the statement when you are looking at the ism tafdil. One is you look at it from a linguistic point of view, or one is you look at it from the way that it's generally used in society, the urfi meaning. So if you take the linguistic meaning of an ism tafdil, then it will just mean that there is no book which is more authentic than Sahih Muslim, but there could be a book which is equal to Sahih Muslim. This is taking the lughwi meaning. But when you look at the urfi meaning, then it's going to mean that if you have to take this here according to urf, according to how people talk, then it's going to be that, when a person says that no one is more knowledgeable than a particular person, immediately you will understand that that particular person is the most knowledgeable. So you take in the urfi meaning, it will mean that there's no one even equal to him. Everyone else is inferior. So lughatan, it's nafyul afdaliyya wal asahiyya, that there is no, when you take in the lughwi meaning by him saying ma tahta adim sama asahu min kitab Muslim, it means that there is no other book which is more authentic, but there could be a book which is equal. This is the lughwi meaning. But when you are taking the urfi meaning, that what's the reason a person will express himself like this, it means that there is no book which is more authentic, and there is no book which is even equal to Sahih Muslim. The book of Sahih Muslim would be the most authentic, because he's clearly using the word asahu, so it will be the most authentic. Now, those of you who done Usul al-Shashi, you can remember from Usul al-Shashi or in any other Usul al-Fiqh book which you done, that when you have urf and lugha, when both differ, then what do you give preference to? So you give preference to urf. That in Usul al-Shashi, it comes there that al-Fasl al-Sabi' وَمَا يُتْرَكُ بِهِ حَقِيقَةُ اللَّفْظِ خَمْسَةُ أَنْوَاعٍ. And then the first type is دلالة العرف، وذلك لأن ثبوت الأحكام بالألفاظ إنما كان لدلالة اللفظ على المعنى المراد للمتكلم، فإذا كان المعنى متعارفا بين الناس كان ذلك المعنى المتعارف دليلا على أنه هو المراد به ظاهرا فيترتب عليه الحكم. This here comes in أصول الشاشة. So you give preference to urf. So here we are saying that if you take the lughi meaning, Ibn Hajar rahmallah is mentioning that فَلَمْ يُصَرِّحْ بِكَوْنِي أَصَحْ مِنْ صَحِيحِ الْبُخَارِ. But if you take the urfi meaning, and we are saying that you have to give preference to the urfi meaning, then it's going to mean that actually Sahih Muslim is more authentic, because under the sky, it means no matter which part of the world you go, even if you have to go to Bukhara, to where Imam Bukhari rahmallah was, in no matter which part of the world you go to, because even in Bukhara there's the sky, isn't? So no matter which part of the world you go, there is no kitab which is more authentic than a Sahih Muslim. And you have to give preference to the urfi meaning. So that's it's going to mean that Sahih Muslim is the most authentic is the most authentic kitab. And we're saying that there are examples like this here to show that this here was the urf and the word was also used like this here from the time of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. For example, in Al-Mu'jam al-Awsat, in volume 1 on page 210, there is a narration where Jabir radiyallahu anhu says that مَا رَأَيْتُ أَحْسَنَ مِنْ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم فِي حُلَّةٍ حَمْرَاءٍ. So when he says that I haven't seen anyone who was more handsome than Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam in a red garment, then it means that really there was no one who was better, who was more handsome than him, and there was even no one who was equal to him. That's the meaning. So urfan, you can understand it. He's trying to say that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was ahsan. He was definitely the most handsome in the red clothing. So even the sentence here, every person who is will hear it, mutabadir ila dhahan, what will immediately come to his mind. So this Mullah al-Qari rahmallah actually says it, that وقد صرح السيد في شرح المفتاح وغيره بأن المقصود من مثل هذا التركيب نفي الأفضلية والمساواة معا وذلك لأنه المتبادر من الكلام. That the first meaning which will come is someone is to tell you that there is no one more better than a particular person, there is no one more learned than a particular person. The mutabadir meaning is that that person is the most learned. So the same will apply here. Now we're saying that this asal is that you take the urfi meaning when you have a lugwi meaning and an urfi meaning different, and you give preference to the urfi meaning. We find that there were scholars, great masters in this field, who also understood the same here, and they took the urfi meaning from the sentence of Abu Ali an-Nizaburi. For example, I just told you now that Alama ibn Salah rahmallah mentioned the statement in his Muqaddimah. So when condensing Muqaddimah ibn Salah, Imam Nawawi rahmallah, he quoted the words as follows: Sayyidan riwayah bil ma'na. What did Imam Ibn Salah rahmallah said? He quoted the exact words verbatim. And he said it, وَأَمَا مَا رُوِينَاهُ, and then he quoted the words exactly, مَا تَحْتَ أَدِيمِ السَّمَاءِ كِتَاب أَصَحْ مِنْ كِتَابِ Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj. Now look, Imam Nawawi rahmallah, his job is now to condense, to abridge Muqaddimah ibn Salah. So when trying to abridge it, when trying to put it in a shorter form, how did he put it in a shorter form? He says it like this here. وقال أبو علي الحافظ النيزابوري وبعض شيوخ المغرب مسلم أصح. You can see he's saying that the exact statement is ما تحت أديم السماء أصح من كتاب Muslim. When how is Imam Nawawi rahmallah quoting his words? Muslim asah. This is in Rishad Tullab al-Haqaiq, which is the abridgment of Muqaddimah ibn Salah. So even if you have to look, Ibn al-Hanbali rahmallah, he mentioned that there were scholars who gave preference in terms of asahiyah. He said, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَدَّمَ Ṣahīh Muslim فِي الصِّحَّةِ عَلَى Ṣahīh al-Bukhārī وَاسْتَدَلَّ لَهُ بِقَوْلِ الْحَافِظ أبي علي an-Naysaburi. So you can, all these here show you that there were scholars who actually did take the urfi meaning, because that's the asal, that you take the urfi meaning. But then the problem comes about that if you are taking this urfi meaning, like we said, it's going to mean that Ṣahīh Muslim is more authentic than Ṣahīh al-Bukhārī. And it won't be correct for Ibn Hajar rahmallah then to say, وَلَمْ يُجَرْ عَنْ أَحَدٍ التَّصْرِيحُ بِنَقِيضِهِمْ. So Ibn Hajar rahmallah then felt the need that he needs to explain the words. So when Ibn Salah rahmallah quoted it, then he just gave an answer to it like this here, and he said that there are two either you will have to interpret these words of Abu Ali an-Nisapuri, you will have to say that he's referring to the husn al-siyaq, and he's referring to, because if you know how Ṣahīh Muslim, in fact in the next paragraph we'll discuss a bit more about it, how Ṣahīh Muslim, the tartib which he put in his kitab, etc. Then if on that basis you are saying, but that is a far-fetched meaning because he's clearly using the word asahu. So then Ibn Salah rahmallah said, وَإِنْ كَانَ الْمُرَادُ بِهِ أَنَّ كِتَاب مُسْلِمْ أَصَحَّ صَحِيحًا فَهَذَا مَرْدُودٌ عَلَى مَنْ يَقُولُهُ وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ. So the first answer of Ibn Salah rahmallah is saying that Abu Ali an-Nisaburi is referring to the tartib of the kitab, etc. That's far-fetched because he clearly used the word asah. And then the second thing, he's just saying that it's mardud, that this year we won't pay any attention to it, it will be discarded. So he's not giving any reason. So therefore, Ibn Hajar rahmallah, he did not find these answers of Ibn Salah rahmallah to be very adequate. And he told his students that that's the reason why he decided to explain it here. So Al-Maqasim in Qutb quotes Ibn Hajar and saying that وَفِي الْعِبَارَةِ إِشَارَةً إِلَى التَّنْكِيثِ عَلَى ابْنِ السَّلَامِ مِنْ وَجْهَيْنِ. That he brought the Ibarah here in Nuzha an-Naḍar to because of the responses which Ibn Salah rahmallah gave. Then after that he explains that Ibn Salah rahmallah, the first answer which he gave, is فَجَمَعَ بَيْنَ كَلَامِ أَبِي عَلِيٍّ وَبَعْضِ أَهْلِ الْمَغْرِبِ. That's why I told you in the next paragraph. You can see the first words of the next paragraph there. وَكَذَلِكَ مَا نُقِلَ عَنْ بَعْضِ الْمُغَارِبَ أَنَّهُ فَضَّلَ Ṣahīh Muslim. So Ibn Hajar is saying that it's actually a different statement. That Abu Ali an-Nisapuri, you got this clear statement of his, and that what is narrated from those scholars of the West, that's completely different. So Alama Ibn Salah, he coupled both together and he gave one response. So that is why he's saying that وَإِنَّمَا ذَكَرَ مَا يكون جوابا عن كلام أهل المغرب فقط فصار كلام أبو علي غير معلوم الجواب مما قاله. He's saying that the answer which he gave was not to the specific sentence, because the specific sentence clearly mentions the word asah. And then the second thing is, he said, أن قوله فهذا مردود على ما يقوله لم يبين وجه الرد فيه. He didn't explain why it is mardud. So therefore, he thought that he will bring it and explain it here in his Nuzha. So in order to show that Abu Ali an-Nisapuri is not contradicting Jumhur, Ibn Hajar rahmallah felt that one is you have the lugwi meaning, one you have the urfi meaning. Yeah, for this sentence, it's better to take the linguistic meaning. Because he's saying that we don't look at our urf. He's saying that look at the urf, that we said that he was born in the year 277. So look at the urf of that time. He says that in those times, the masses would only use the word according to lugha. They wouldn't use it according to how it is in urf in our times. So Alam al-Aqani, he explains that the author is trying to say that أن عرف زمانهم لم يكن مثل عرف زماننا بل كان موافقا للغة. That in their society, in their time, they would use the word according to lugha. So, and then he says that this here is not a thumbsuck, like he's just pulling it out from his pocket. There are actual examples where the literal meaning has to be taken. And he's saying that if you have, for example, if you have to look at this narration, Imam Ahmad rahmallah is narrated in his Musnad. Likewise, Ibn Majah rahmallah narrated that Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu says that here Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying, ما أقلت الخبراء ولا أضلت الخضراء من رجل أصدق من أبي ذر. So here, Alama Munawi explains, فَيَسْتُدُقُ بِالْمُسَاوَاةِ. That this here, when he's saying that ما أقلت that أصدق من أبي ذر, it cannot be that Abu Dharr radiyallahu anhu was more. Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, what is he known as? He's known as Siddiq, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So he was, in this statement, it means that Abu Dharr could have been equal to Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. It does not mean that Abu Dharr is asdaq than Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu also. So he's showing that, look, you have to take the lugwi meaning. So just like how there you are saying that when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned, and if you have to look, it's also mentioned first with a negative, that ma. Like how the is mentioned first with the negative ma tahta adim sama. So there also it's mentioned with a negative ma aqallatil qadra, and thereafter the ism tafdil is brought. So in al-qawl al-mubtakar al-maqasim min kutl al-Bukhārī, he mentions the discussion between himself and the author. He said that the author, when giving this dars, he mentioned that in qil inna al-urf yaqdi fi qawlina ma fi al-balad a'la min Zayd بنفي ما يساويه أيضا قل لا نسلم أن عرفهم كان كذلك. That in our urf, if we have to say that I don't know anyone in this particular city who is more knowledgeable than Zayd, so it means that definitely there's no one who is even equal to him. That's in our urf. So Ibn Hajar is saying that لا نسلم أن عرفهم كان كذلك. That there's no proof that their urf, in their urf, it could have also been used lughatan. So Alama Qasim in Kutl al-Bukhārī responded to this here, and he's saying, but then what happens to the hadith? ما طلعت شمس ولا غربت بعد النبيين على أحد أفضل من أبي بكر. And then he quotes Alama Nasafi as saying, فهذا يقتضي أن أبا بكر أفضل من كل من ليس بنبي. So Ibn Hajar rahmallah responded to that and said, سلمنا that we accept, لكن يجوز إطلاق مثل هذه العبارة وإن وجر مساوٍ. Basically what he's trying to say, that just like how you can use it urf, our urf specified it to one particular meaning, but their urf left it in a dual meaning. That's what he's trying to say, that in their urf it had this dual meaning, and therefore we can say that their urf was also mutabiq lil-lugha. So it follows their urf, and for us it's in our for us it seems as if it is only the lugha meaning, but for them it was the urfi and the lugwi meaning. So Ibn Hajar insisted that we have to take it, and therefore Mullah al-Qari mentioned والحاصل أن الحمل على المعنى اللغوي كاف لنفي التصريح ومنعه. So Imam Sakhawi rahimahullah said that now, okay, in their urf it could have both meanings. So then we cannot clearly now specify it here. So he mentioned this here in Fath al-Mughith. إذا كان لفظ أبو بكر علي محتمل لكل من الأمرين لم يحسن أن ينسب إليه الجزم بالأصحية. And that proves the point which Ibn Hajar rahimahullah was trying to make. Now, after this whole long discussion, we say that, you know, how I always quote to you that Shaykh Awama say you must always go back to the actual words of Abu Ali an-Nisapuri. So we're saying that this whole entire long discussion, but if we had to actually go back to the words of Abu Ali an-Nisapuri, we would have found that this, we would have understood exactly what he is meaning, and there was no need for all of this here. Because that's the exact statement, neither did, if we said he passed away in the year past 340, so neither did Ibn Salam meet Abu Ali an-Nisapuri, and neither did Ibn Hajar rahmallah meet him. So obviously they have to get this here from some source, and they have to be a sanad for it. So Ulama Khatib al-Baghdadi mentions it with his sanad, that حدثني Abu al-Qasim Abdullah ibn Ahmad ibn Ali, and then he quotes his own sanad via Ibn Manda, and then he's saying that he heard Abu Ali an-Nisapuri. His exact words are like this here: ما تحت أديم السماء أصح من كتاب مسلم ibn al-Hajjaj في علم الحديث. You can see he added that. And here, interestingly, so I told you that Ibn Salah rahmallah quoted the words in his Muqaddimah in Ma'rifah Ulum al-Hadith. But when he quoted it in Ṣahīh Muslim, he quoted it with an entire sanad, his own sanad, from, he says, أخبرني الشيخ المسند أبو الحسن المؤيد, and then he quotes the whole entire sanad right up until Abu Ali an-Nisapuri, and he also quotes Abu Ali an-Nisapuri saying this here, that ما تحت أديم السماء أصح من كتاب مسلم ibn al-Hajjaj في علم الحديث. So obviously by saying في علم الحديث, from the next paragraph you will understand how في علم الحديث, in the field of hadith, Ṣahīh Muslim will get preference over Ṣahīh al-Bukhārī. So therefore, and from here we learn it's always going back to the exact source and looking for the exact words of a particular person. If we have to go back to this original source, then there was no need for this entire discussion. So inshallah on Thursday we'll continue with the next paragraph until then. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.